You have been doing the work. Not casually, not inconsistently, but with the kind of genuine, sustained, deeply intentional commitment that most people around you would not even recognize as what it actually is. Because what it looks like from the outside is simply a person going about their ordinary life, getting up, showing up, continuing to move in the direction of what they believe in, despite the persistent and sometimes overwhelming absence of visible evidence that it is working. You have been praying, meditating, doing the inner work that no one sees and no one validates, but that you know, at the level where genuine knowing lives, is the most important work available to you. You have been faithful to your practices, consistent with your intentions, genuinely committed to the path you are on. And yet, nothing. No doors opening in the ways you expected, no signs arriving with the clarity you needed, no relief from the pressure that the season has been generating, no visible evidence that any of what you have been planting is producing anything at all. The season feels fruitless, unyielding, and in its most difficult moments, in the quiet hours when the gap between where you are and where you believe you are meant to be feels widest, it can feel pointless. This is the moment, the exact moment when most awakened souls, however genuine their faith and however real their commitment, begin to consider giving up. Not because they are weak, not because their path was wrong, but because they have made a mistake that is completely understandable and completely human. They have mistaken the silence for abandonment, the fruitlessness for failure, the darkness of an underground season for evidence that nothing is growing. But here is what fruitless seasons actually are, for those with eyes to see them clearly. They are sacred. They are necessary. They are doing something in the depths of your life that the visible, flowering, apparently productive seasons simply cannot do. And the soul that learns to recognize them for what they are, not as punishment or as failure or as evidence that the path was wrong, but as the specific and irreplaceable season in which the deepest and most essential growth always happens, discovers something that transforms not only how they survive difficulty, but how they understand the entire arc of their journey. Before we continue, take a slow breath. If you are in one of these seasons right now, if something in you recognized itself in the opening of this message, let this be the reminder your soul needed. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are in the middle. And the middle is where everything that matters is built. Subscribe to this channel if you are walking a path of genuine spiritual commitment and conscious living. And if this found you at exactly the right moment, leave 1111 in the comments as your quiet declaration that you are still here, still holding on, still trusting the process. Now let us walk through 9 profound reasons why an awakened soul must never give up in a fruitless season. 1. What appears to be stillness above ground is expansion below it. Nature understands something about growth that human impatience consistently struggles to accept. The most significant growth does not happen in the visible, upward, flowering stages that everyone celebrates and photographs and points to as evidence of life and progress. It happens underground, in the dark, in the invisible, unhurried, patient work of root development that no one can see but that everything visible ultimately depends on. A tree that grows quickly in favorable conditions, that shoots upward fast in rich soil with abundant water, develops a root system proportional to the ease of its growth. Shallow, because the roots never had to reach far to find what they needed. And shallow roots, however impressive the above-ground growth appears, produce a tree that is vulnerable to the first storm that tests it. The tree that suffers through drought develops something entirely different. Its roots, denied easy surface nourishment, are forced downward and outward in search of what they need, into the deeper soil, into the underground water that the surface conditions could not provide. Reaching further, going deeper, establishing a foundation that the well-watered tree never had to build. When the storm comes, and it always comes, these two trees respond very differently. Your fruitless season is the drought that is building your root system. The apparent stillness above ground is not evidence that nothing is happening. It is evidence that what is happening where it needs to happen, in the depths, in the invisible foundations, in the parts of your life and your soul that the visible seasons never had to develop. The roots being established right now will hold you through storms that would have dismantled the version of you that existed before this season began. Trust the underground work. It is the most significant thing currently happening in your life. 2. The silence is an adjustment, not a rejection. When the guidance that usually arrives clearly goes quiet, when the synchronicities that usually confirm your direction stop appearing, when the sense of being actively accompanied and actively directed that you have come to rely on seems to withdraw, the most natural interpretation, and the most painful, is that something has gone wrong, that you have somehow moved out of alignment, that the connection you believed was real has been withdrawn, that the silence means what silence usually means in human relationships: absence, indifference, the communication that you are no longer being attended to. But this interpretation misses something essential about how genuine spiritual growth actually works. There are seasons in which the guidance that has been operating at a certain frequency needs to shift to a higher one. And that shift requires a period of recalibration that, from the inside, feels like silence. Not because the guidance has withdrawn, but because the frequency it is now operating at is not yet fully accessible to the receiver whose own frequency is in the process of being upgraded to match it. Think of it as tuning. The station you have been receiving clearly is shifting frequency, and for a period, while your own inner receiver adjusts to the new frequency, there is static where there was previously clarity. Not because the broadcast has stopped, but because the alignment between broadcaster and receiver is in the process of being established at a new level. The silence is not rejection, it is preparation. It is the specific and necessary condition in which an upgrade is happening that will, when it completes, give you access to guidance at a level that was not previously available to you. Do not walk away during the recalibration. The upgrade is almost complete. 3. Some delays are protection in a form you cannot yet recognize. This is one of the most difficult truths to hold in a fruitless season, and one of the most consistently verified by those who have survived enough of them to see the pattern clearly. What did not arrive when you wanted it to, the door that did not open, the breakthrough that did not come, the opportunity that seemed to dissolve just as it was becoming real, was not always a denial. Sometimes it was a redirection, and sometimes, more often than most people are willing to consider, it was protection. Protection from arriving at something before you had developed the capacity to steward it well, before you had healed what needed healing in order to receive it without being harmed by it or harming others through it, before the specific qualities that the next season of your life would require had been fully developed in you through exactly the kind of difficulty that the fruitless season is producing. You cannot always see what a premature breakthrough would have cost you. The relationship entered before the healing was complete. The opportunity seized before the wisdom to steward it had been developed. The platform achieved before the character required to inhabit it with genuine integrity had been forged. The fruitless season is doing the work of ensuring that what arrives to a version of you that is genuinely ready for it, that can receive it without losing it, that can steward it in ways that serve not only your own life, but everyone it will eventually touch. The delay is not the universe withholding what is yours. It is the universe ensuring that what is yours arrives to a version of you that can actually keep it. 4. Who you are without the fruit is the most important discovery available to you. There is a version of spiritual identity that is entirely contingent on the evidence of its own flourishing. It believes in the path when the path is producing visible results. It maintains its practices when the practices are generating noticeable shifts. It speaks with confidence about its faith when that faith is being regularly confirmed by circumstances. It is, in its own way, genuine, but its genuineness is dependent on the conditions cooperating. The fruitless season strips this away with a thoroughness that nothing else can match. When there is no fruit, when the visible evidence that would sustain a contingent faith is absent, what remains is what is actually there. Not the spiritual identity constructed for the seasons when things are working, but the raw, unperformed, genuinely present soul that exists independently of whether circumstances are confirming it. This is who you actually are. And meeting this version of yourself, encountering the faith that remains when the evidence of its reward is absent, the commitment that persists when the path offers nothing to make the commitment feel obviously worthwhile, is one of the most significant discoveries available to a human being. Because this version of you, the one that stays when there is no compelling, visible reason to stay, is the version that the next season of your life actually requires. The one capable of inhabiting what is coming, with the groundedness and the genuine integrity that the flourishing seasons alone could never produce. The fruitless season is not taking something from you. It is revealing something in you that was always there, but that could only be seen in the absence of everything that was temporarily covering it. 5. Your persistence is doing something in your lineage that extends far beyond your own life. You are not simply living for yourself. However individual your path feels, however solitary the seasons of genuine difficulty can be, you are not an isolated soul making an isolated journey. You are a link in a chain, a continuation of a lineage that extends back further than your memory can reach, and forward further than your imagination can see. The people who came before you, whose lives and whose choices and whose struggles contributed to the specific combination of gifts and wounds and possibilities that you arrived in this life carrying, faced their own impossible seasons, their own fruitless stretches, their own moments of profound temptation to release the faith and abandon the path and settle for something smaller than what they were genuinely meant to become. Some held, some did not. And the difference, in what was carried forward, in what was passed on or not passed on to the generations that followed, was real. When you hold in your fruitless season, you are not only preserving your own path, you are doing something in your lineage, healing something, establishing something, breaking a pattern of abandonment, of giving up when the evidence runs out, that may have repeated across generations in ways you cannot fully trace but can genuinely feel. Your persistence in this season is not only yours, it is a gift to everyone who carries what you carry, backward into the lineage that shaped you, and forward into the lives that will, in ways you cannot yet see, be shaped by you. Hold the line, not only for yourself, but for all of them. 6. Releasing control is not the same as releasing commitment. This is one of the most important distinctions that a fruitless season is designed to teach, and one of the most difficult to genuinely internalize rather than simply intellectually accept. There is a form of engagement with your path that is, beneath its surface appearance of faith and dedication, actually a form of control. The insistence that the path produce results on a particular timeline, the inability to tolerate the absence of visible confirmation without interpreting it as failure. The subtle but persistent attempt to manage the process, to ensure that what is unfolding unfolds in the way and at the pace that your understanding of it requires. This is not faith. It is faith with conditions attached. And the fruitless season, by consistently failing to meet those conditions, is doing something specific and necessary. It is dismantling the control that was masquerading as trust. Genuine surrender, the kind that genuine spiritual maturation eventually produces, is not the abandonment of commitment. It is the deepening of it past the point where it requires particular outcomes in order to continue. The willingness to remain fully present on the path, without insisting that the path confirm itself through visible results at the frequency that your own impatience demands. This is not passive. It is one of the most active and most demanding orientations available to a human being. The active choice, renewed daily in the absence of visible confirmation, to trust the process rather than the outcome, to remain committed to the direction without clutching at control of the timing. When you find this, genuinely find it rather than performing it, something shifts. Not always immediately in the external circumstances, but in the quality of your inner experience of the season. The fruitlessness that felt like punishment begins to feel like something else, like preparation, like the specific and necessary conditions in which a particular quality of trust is being built that no other conditions could produce. 7. The transmission you are waiting for arrives in the pause, not in the noise. One of the consistent patterns across the accounts of awakened souls who have moved through significant fruitless seasons is this: the clarity they were seeking, the specific insight, the genuine direction, the understanding of what the season was for and where it was leading did not arrive through more intense seeking. It did not come as the reward for sufficient spiritual effort, or sufficient persistence, or sufficient time spent in formal practice. It arrived in the pause, in the moment of genuine stillness that follows the exhaustion of striving, in the quiet that opens up when the soul, having spent itself in the effort to understand and to control and to make something happen, finally, out of sheer depletion if nothing else, stops. And in that stopping, something arrives that the stopping made possible. Not always immediately, not always in the form that was expected or in the clarity that would have been preferred, but consistently, across enough accounts to constitute a genuine pattern. The fruitless season becomes, for those who stay in it long enough to reach genuine surrender, one of the most generative and most directionally clarifying seasons of their entire journey. The download that was waiting, the insight into purpose, the clarity about direction, the genuine understanding of what this season was for, was always available. It simply required the quality of genuine stillness that the striving consistently prevented. If you are in the middle of a fruitless season right now, consider the possibility that what you have been seeking is not waiting for more effort. It may be waiting for the specific quality of open, non-striving, genuinely receptive stillness that only becomes available when the effort is finally, completely, genuinely set down. 8. Leaving now does not end the lesson, it restarts it. This is a spiritual principle that those who have paid close attention to the patterns of their own life across enough seasons will have verified through direct experience. The lessons that come with particular seasons do not disappear when you leave the season prematurely. They travel. They reorganize themselves into new forms, new relationships, new circumstances, new configurations of the same essential dynamic, and they present themselves again, with the same patience and the same consistency that they brought the first time. Because the universe is not interested in punishing you for leaving. It is simply interested in ensuring that what needs to be learned is learned, and it will continue creating the conditions for that learning until the learning genuinely happens. This means that every fruitless season abandoned before its completion will, in some form and at some point, need to be returned to. Not as punishment, as curriculum. Because the growth it was designed to produce, the roots, the depth, the specific quality of faith and surrender and genuine trust, cannot be substituted by any other kind of experience. Only this kind of season produces this kind of growth, and the soul that has not yet developed it will need to. The question is not whether the season's lesson will eventually be learned. It will. The question is whether you learn it now, in this configuration, in this specific set of circumstances that have been arranged for exactly this purpose, or whether you defer it to a future version of yourself who will face it again in different clothes. Staying now is the most efficient path through the lesson available to you. And what becomes available on the other side of genuine completion is something that no amount of deferral can eventually replace. 9. What you planted has not died. It is in its longest germination. This is the truth that the fruitless season most needs you to hold, and the one that requires the most active faith to maintain in the absence of visible confirmation. The work you have done is not wasted. The prayers offered, the intentions set, the genuine effort made toward what you believe you are here to do and here to become, none of it has dissolved into nothing. It has been received. It has been working in the unseen dimensions of your life and your world in ways that the visible surface of the current season cannot yet show. In nature, there are seeds whose germination periods are measured not in days or weeks, but in months, in years, in decades. They lie in the ground through season after season of apparent inactivity, through drought and cold, and the kind of external conditions that would suggest to any observer that nothing is alive and nothing is coming. And then, in the specific combination of conditions that their particular nature requires: the right temperature, the right moisture, the right configuration of light. They germinate. And what emerges is not proportional to the shortness of the wait. It is proportional to the depth of the preparation, to the length of the underground season that built the root system and the stored energy and the specific readiness that the emergence required. Your breakthrough is not late. It is not lost. It is not evidence of a path that was wrong, or a faith that was misplaced, or a commitment that was not sufficient. It is germinating in the specific conditions that your specific seed requires, building toward an emergence that will be proportional not to your impatience, but to the depth of what is being prepared. Do not pull the seed from the ground to check whether it is growing. Trust the underground work. Stay. And when it comes, and it is coming, with a fullness and a speed that this season's apparent barrenness gives no indication of, receive it as what it actually is: the fruit of everything you did not give up on. So how do you survive a fruitless season with your faith and your forward momentum genuinely intact? First, stop measuring your progress by what is visible. Measure it by your willingness to remain, by the quality of your commitment on the days when commitment costs the most. That is the only measurement that this season actually responds to. Second, create small and consistent rituals of persistence. Not grand gestures, not heroic declarations of renewed dedication. Simply small, daily, embodied acts that say, I am still here. I have not left. I am still facing the direction I believe in. A candle lit each morning. A single affirmation spoken aloud. One small thing done in the direction of your purpose. These are not nothing. They are the daily renewal of a commitment that the fruitless season is specifically designed to test. Third, keep a record of what you are learning, not what is producing results. What you are discovering about yourself, about your faith, about the nature of genuine trust in the absence of visible confirmation. You will look back at this record and see, with a clarity that the season itself does not yet offer, that everything was growing, that the roots were reaching, that the germination was progressing, that the underground work was real. And fourth, find the testimony of those who have survived their own fruitless seasons and come through them into something they could not have reached any other way. Their stories are not just inspiring, they are evidence. Evidence that this season is survivable, that what is being built in it is real, that the fruit is coming. Your challenge this week is simple. Write down one reason you have not given up yet. Not a reason about results or about visible evidence that the path is working. A reason about who you are becoming, about what staying is building in you that leaving would not. Keep it somewhere you can see it. And on the hardest days, the days when the silence is loudest and the fruitlessness feels most complete, read it and stay. You are not at the end of your story. You are in the middle. And the middle, difficult, unglamorous, underground, invisible, is where everything that matters is built. Do not give up. What is coming is closer than you know. This is the Messages of the Awakening channel. If this stirred something in you, share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Subscribe for more spiritual awakening content, and leave 1111 in the comments if this found you at exactly the moment your soul needed it. Thank you for being here.